Hello, everybody. So we've gone over the box model in CSS for quite a few lessons. In this lesson, I want to imagine an application that we'll see on the screen with all of the information that we've learned. So here I've just downloaded a PNG file for the plane, and I created and positioned the sky, the sun, and the mountains with the features that we've learned. So if you want to, and you feel you need to, if you start thinking, I'm not really quite confident, you can pause the lesson here and go back and practice a little bit. And that way you can test what you've learned on this application. But if you're confident to go forward, let's start preparing our sample in Atom right now. So as always, I'm going to get started creating two new files named this time boxexample.html and boxexample.css. In our HTML file, I'll just write HTML and press the tab key and then write box model practice for the title, add the link tag and write the name of the CSS file that I'm going to use in it. And now let's go to the body part. So where do we need to start when we look at the image? Of course, we have to create our sky first. So let's make a div to create it and give the class a name, sky. And then by going to our CSS file, typing .sky and opening angle brackets, we can start to specify our features. So first I'll make the width and the height values. So here I gave 750 pixels for the width and 250 pixels for height. You, of course, can use smaller or larger values if you wish. But remember to pay attention to the values that you give when positioning the boxes that we prepare. Now set the background color for the sky. Of course, I don't want to just give it any random color here or even just a regular blue. So for this, I hope you remember what we talked about earlier when we were talking about colors. I'll just go to Google and write CSS colors and click on the first W3 School site. So here I can click on the color picker section on any color. And in this color palette that appears, I'll just click on a color that, is close to the color that I want. So here I'll just choose a color that I like for the sky and copy its hexadecimal value. And then I can just return to my CSS file and give the sky background color. So let's have a look and see what it does on the browser. And that way we can review what we've done. Okay, so it looks like our sky is ready. Of course, in the upper left corner. So how about we get some more here in the middle? So for this, I find it pretty useful to give the body part a margin because it can be pretty difficult to give different margin values for each box that we're going to use. So that's why I for this, I'll just use 100 pixels and 200 pixel values to the body part from the top and the left. Okay, so now it's time to prepare our sun in the sky. So for this, we'll add a new div into the div we created for the sky in our HTML file. We'll write the sun as you guessed the name of the class. And then switching to our CSS file, typing .sun and creating a box with a width and height of 40 pixels. Now, let me ask you, why did we make a square while the shape of our sound is round? Now, if you remember, we did use the border radius feature to round the corners earlier, right? So what happens if we give half the width of our square for the border radius value. Boom, of course we'd have a round sun, yeah. So now it's time to choose the background color. For this, we can go to the previous site and choose a color. Then after choosing a suitable color for ourselves, going to want to add some shading, right? Now, of course, you got to remember to use the box shadow feature. So when using this feature, we're defining 4 different features. We can make the right side shadow length, bottom side shadow length, shade intensity, and the shadow colors, respectively. Okay, so yeah, our sun is ready. But it's not like it's in the right place. And it looks kind of, I want to make it a little bit lower and to the left. I think that'd be nicer. So let's make the left margin for a little bit more on the left side. But for the right, I'm going to want to give some padding values to the sky. So let's see how that looks. Excellent. Okay, so now it's time for the image. So as you may recall, I mentioned before, I downloaded the plain image as a PNG, and I put this in the Photos folder that I created in the CSS folder. Now that our plane is in the sky, we need to write it in the div that we created for the sky. So now let's write the IMG tag and write photos/plane.png in the SRC section and write the plane in the alt section. Now in my CSS file, I'll give the width and height values, and we'll make them 150 for the IMG tag, and we'll make the distance 500 from the left. So yeah, our sky, our sun, our plane, yeah, that looks ready. Now let's head for the mountains. So let's go to our HTML file. Now there's no need to go into the div that we created for the sky anymore, right? So we'll create another div under this div with a class name .mountain1. Create another div right after it and make it .mountain2 in the class name. And now we can start to determine its features with CSS. Now first I'll make the width 500 and the height 250 and the background color. So here, let's just give it the color green. And then here, we'll just need to round the corner of this box. All right, so let's change this border radius feature. And here the first value was the top left corner, and the second value is the top right corner. Of course, the third value is the bottom right, and the fourth value is bottom left. So now we need to roll our first mountain from the top right corner. So I'll make it 200% in second value, and here we have a little bit of a different way to do it. It's not a pixel value. So here, let's not let that confuse us, because when we look at it, the mountain is positioned a little bit further down and a little bit higher. So for this, I'll just change the margin and write the first value minus 110 pixels. And then I'll make the other 0, because of course, The minus sign here is not negative, right? It's just in the opposite direction. And then finally, I just want to use the float left feature because naturally, remember this feature allows the boxes to be juxtaposed. So now I'm copying what I wrote and just use it for the other mountain because it has roughly the same features. So first I'll change the name to dot mountain 2. Then I can nest from the top left corner of the border radius value. So I'm changing the first value. Then finally I'll change the last value of the margin. And our two mountains are overlapping. And yeah, the image is the way we want it to be. It's ready. So I think that's enough for this lesson. I hope that you have time to do some more practice because I think it's kind of fun to be able to manipulate all of this. And it's a great way to actually just explore. And that way you can really master these features. In this lesson, we used a lot of the box model features. In our next lesson, we're going to do up an application that will reinforce everything that we learned. We'll also explore some of the text inside, and we're going to have the opportunity to test the font and text features. So until then, goodbye for now. See you in the next lesson.